views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Blue Ridge PBS, the Virginia Department of Education, or the Virginia Society for Technology in Education. Blue Ridge PBS, in partnership with the Virginia Department of Education and in collaboration with VISTI, the Virginia Society for Technology in Education, is talking to leading educators about what gets them energized and how technology is being used to inspire student engagement. This is ActiVATED Learning.
The very first special ed teacher he had told us that it was one of the hardest IEPs she's ever written. And she's been in special ed for 30 years, I think. And she said, he's such a intelligent kid that he has learned to mask even dyslexia.
And I thought one day on the way home, why don't I try this with him? He can hold the book and look at the words and also hear them. If he gets to a difficult word, it takes that frustration level out. He doesn't have to decode that word. He can lean on the audio version.
That was the first time I ever done that, and I thought that made it 2 times better, easier, and I started to enjoy books, and I found them a lot fun.
Welcome to ActiVATED Learning. I'm Tom Landon. We're in the podcast studio here at Blue Ridge PBS today, and I'm really excited for you to meet my guests. Today we're going to talk about dyslexia, something I don't know a whole lot about. And dyslexia is a term that was coined by a German ophthalmologist over 130 years ago. It literally translates as difficulty with words. That broad definition has been tightened up, and today the International Dyslexia Association describes it, and bear with me here, it's a long definition, as a specific neurobiological learning disability affecting reading, spelling, and decoding, stemming from a phonological deficit in language, often unexpected, given a person's intelligence, leading to difficulties with accurate word recognition and fluency. It's been connected with behavioral issues in the classroom, and some believe that's mainly due to the stress that can come with the difficulties of reading aloud, especially. My guests today have driven in from Wise County, and they are the Vanover family, Daniel and Micah and Katie. And Micah has been diagnosed with dyslexia, and with help from his mom, who fortuitously is a reading specialist, he began implementing a learning strategy that has been really helpful to him. I'm so happy to have you guys in the Blue Ridge PBS podcast studio to talk about it. Let's just start. Daniel, I've known you for a little while through VISTI, and at the conference this year, the VISTI conference in Virginia Beach, several people came up to me and just talked about what a great session they had just been to with Katie, and Micah made a surprise appearance. But you've been in education for a long time. So let's just talk about kind of your background.
Okay, so I started out actually in the math classroom. This was 18 years ago. I've been in education 18 years. It's hard to believe when you say that. But I started out teaching Algebra 2, Math Analysis, and Calculus in a high school. And my second year in, I was really showing a lot of interest in the technology fields, the educational technology fields especially. I was the one that a lot of times if they had some type of special technology project, they wanted it to happen, they'd come to my classroom and set up a camera or something like that. I had actually one of our live broadcasting channels that would go to another school that I would be teaching another student in another school. So I was kind of that guinea pig for them. And then my third year, right before I started the school year, I got a call from our who would be our director of technology at the time, and she was like, I've got this position. It's a instructional technology resource teacher. You would be going around teaching and training other folks on how to use technology and assisting them in their classrooms. And I just jumped right on that because that was just something that was right up my alley. I loved it. I still love it, and I've been doing this for going on 16 years now, and it's been a fun little ride for me.
Well, and anybody who's a regular listener to ActiVATED Learning knows that we love ITRTs and instructional technology coaches. And I think as we'll learn as we have more of this conversation, Micah was very lucky to be born into the family that he was born into, Katie, because you are a reading specialist and in Lee County.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about how you got interested in that.
I started teaching math as well. I thought that was going to be where I needed to be, but I needed to be in the reading classroom. And so I pursued that and then had children, and that was my focus for a while. When I decided to go back to the classroom, I really wanted a reading specialist position, and that was available to me in Lee County. So I've been there for about 8 years now.
Yeah, that's Micah, we're going to get to you in just a second, but I want to share some things we learned prior to recording here today, and that was that you didn't have a great sense that Micah had difficulty reading until the pandemic, and let's talk about that a little bit.
When he entered school, he's a bright kid. He is very intelligent and always has done well in school. When the pandemic rolled around and I became his teacher and I'm sitting right beside him and going through those assignments, that's when I realized something wasn't clicking quite right. He would get to words and read a word that was different down on the page or just substitute it with another word. And so we began to pursue testing and things along those lines.
And that's hard for any parent, right? Mm-hmm. And Daniel, you mentioned that, you maybe didn't have a huge love of reading and that you had a little bit of concern that might be passed on to your child. And what was it like for you when, we're testing? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I grew up I was a math person, went into the math field. And so the reading classroom and just sitting down and reading a book never really interested me. Especially even today, I really don't take the time to sit down and read a book. And it's just because it was a struggle, and it still is a struggle for me sometimes because it's something you got to slow down to do a lot of times. And my brain is working so quickly, doing all these different things between my job, and then I do a little woodworking on the side, and I'm always doing some type of building or having fun with some type of construction in that way. So sitting down to just read something just didn't really appeal to me, but I know the value of it. I mean, I'm in education. I know how important that reading is, especially for this early childhood development. When I started seeing my son struggle with reading and started really seeing, I don't want him to dislike reading. I don't want him to just avoid reading like I have done over the years. And so I guess as any parent, you don't want your kid to struggle, and you definitely want them to have a better life than you've got. So, I mean, yeah, it was a little bit of a struggle, the concept of, we're going to be testing for maybe a disability, maybe something sitting there that we just don't see. But being in education, I know that's the way you've got to do it sometimes. That's the way it's got to happen. And it's not as much of a stigma as we like to put on it.
Right. And I think that has improved in recent years. I want to get back to you to talk about sort of some of the technology that you guys have employed. But first, the man and the myth, Micah. Tell me, before we talk about what you've done to help improve your reading abilities and kind of overcome some of the disability that you faced, before this happened, what was it like for you to read? What did you feel like, and what do you realize now that you were thinking when you were trying to make sense of the printed word?
I just hated reading. I always would get a book from the library, start trying to read it. I just always struggled so much and couldn't really find a way to read it if I was reading the same sentence over and over again. And I just hated it. End up probably not even finishing the book. I did not like reading at first.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Did you Did you have a sense that it was different for you than it was for other kids when it came to reading? Or did you think everybody struggled like that?
I think that I thought that people probably struggled a little bit as much as I did, but I think that I felt like that I had a tiny bit. Like, I could tell whenever I was in school, like, some people could read better than me. I was wondering why they could do that.
Sure. And your so when, this is several years into your schooling, right? How old were you how old was he in 2020 when the pandemic hit?
Let's see, 9, 8.
Okay, so you're 8 or 9. You've been in school for a while. I know you went to pre-K and you'd been there. When you had the testing, and some kind person told you, you have something that makes it hard for you to read. What did you feel like then? Were you happy to know, or were you sad to know that your brain was a little different than other people's?
I think I was a bit confused on what was wrong there.
Yeah. And Mom, as a reading specialist, and this show is not about the changes in the way that we've talked about dyslexia and reading in general, although we know, anybody who's in education knows there's been a massive shift in the way that we have moved away from sort of this whole language method and reading for context to kind of a return to what some of us learned in, which was a little bit more about phonics and sounds and how letters work together. What were when you got the diagnosis, what were your next steps?
Yeah, I mean, a diagnosis is great, but what are we going to do? Like, how can we help him to be successful in the classroom? I think that's where my brain went, is what can we do? I wanted to take that frustration that he was feeling in reading and ease that just a little bit. I could see that frustration in him. And I, wanted to take that away, as any parent would.
Of course.
This is my specialty. I should be able to help in that, and you try things, and some things work and some things don't. And that's just kind of how we pursued that going forward.
Sure. And Daniel, as an educator, I'm sure, and as a parent, I guess it would be natural even to feel a little guilty about it, right? How did we miss this?
Yeah, a little bit. And then you start talking to his teachers, and then some of the teachers that we spoke with were just like, I don't see him having any kind of problem. There's no way that he's got a problem. We saw him. He did great in my class. He was an amazing student. He was a really good kid. He was always attentive. And then some other teachers like, well, yeah, he did struggle a little bit with reading, but we really attribute it to anything of a disability of any type. His special ed teacher, the very first special ed teacher he had, told us that it was one of the hardest IEPs she's ever written. And she's been in special ed for 30 years, I think. And she said, this is probably one of the hardest individualized educational plans I've ever done, because he's such a intelligent kid that he has learned to mask even dyslexia.
Sure. And you did you, I mean, you fooled them all for a long time. Let's talk about sort of the change and the role that things like audiobooks played in that. And maybe, Mom, first you can just talk about, how you came to that decision to let's see what happens if we combine.
Mm-hmm. I drive a long way. My commute's quite a long way, and so I listen to audiobooks in the car on the way home. It's just a natural thing that I've all leaned to, is listening to books. And I thought one day on the way home, why don't I try this with him? He can hold the book and look at the words and also hear them. If he gets to a difficult word, it takes that frustration level out. He doesn't have to decode that word. He can lean on the audio version to help him read. That takes the frustration away. So we began to try that. And it seemed like he began to enjoy reading for the first time.
Because you get to understand the stories and your brain can not work so hard at it. Was that new to you? Had you ever tried to read a book and listening to an audiobook at the same time before?
That was the first time I ever done that, and I thought that made it 2 times easier, and I started to enjoy books, and I found them a lot fun.
Because there's good stories.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. What kind of books do you like to read and listen to at the same time?
Right now, I'm reading this one big book that I'm reading is Lord of the Rings.
One of the biggest books. You could keep all that straight in your head. I could never keep the characters straight. Every time I tried to read Lord of the Rings, they all just blended into each other. That's great. And so, Daniel, as an instructional technology guy, of course, you know about all kinds of things. What are some of the other technology tools that kind of help in the same way that having just an audiobook would?
We have seen an absolute explosion of some of these assistive technologies. And I can just remember, I mean, we've had these technologies that would read a text to the child, and it was just more like a screen reader. And we've had those for years, but the number of those that have now come out and the ability for them to read content that's available, whether it's online or in written text, using a phone that you scan the text and it reads it back to you. The fact that we've got that in our fingertips. The Cami extension is one that we've seen.
Okay, I'm gonna ring my buzzword bell. So the Cami extension, I don't know that.
Cami is an extension that we have seen used in the classrooms across education, and it is an extension by a company called Cami, Kami. The extension has always been one that has allowed teachers to assign work to students, and the student will be able to interact with that work a little bit more thoroughly. So they can draw on the actual page the teacher assigns to them. The teacher could add a voice note to that assignment. The student could click on it, hear what the teacher's saying about the assignment, watch a video about the assignment. It's all embedded into the actual assignment. Cami has recently come out with a new toolbar called the Cami Companion that is now able to take text that is on any assignment, on any screen, and not only read it to the student, but also be able to modify it so it's at the student's reading level. So if you're reading on, let's say, a 4th grade reading level and the text is written at a 10th grade reading level, that companion can actually rewrite the entire text that's on the screen.
That's amazing. Yeah, so that it makes sense to the student. Micah, how long did it take you to notice that you were reading better? Do you, and I should ask, like, if you don't have the audio version of the book, have you noticed an improvement in when you just read? Does it help with that too?
Whenever I started noticing that it started help, I think I started noticing right away, because one of the first books I got was this one that one of my friends was reading. He said it was okay. I wanted to try it out and see what the book was like. It was Last Kids on Earth. I read the first one, and I got the audiobook, and I was like, I actually read that. And I think I read it in about 2 weeks. It was the quickest time I've ever read a book. And I was noticed where I read the book so quickly, I actually understood it. And now I'm able to read, sometimes I'm able to read small books. I'm able to read them without the audiobook. I still like using it, but I'm able to use it read it without Libby or an audiobook.
Sure, and we think about Libby. That's the public library's extension. So,
Yes.
Katie, want to talk about where are you getting your books and how are you finding all this
So
material now that you have a reader?
we started with our public library, which is a great resource. I love my public library, but we were limited in the area where we live, didn't have as many resources. So we found out that because we live close to Tennessee, we could get access to Tennessee Reads. Had many more resources. Then we found that Virginia Beach and Newport News provide a public library card to anyone access to the
Anyone with access to the internet?
To Libby, to their online resources.
Yeah, and so that sort of opens it up. So have you found most of the things you want to read are available to you?
Yeah.
On those libraries, he has access to many, many, many books.
Yeah. I've looked up and read a bunch of books. I've only found like one that's not on there.
Well, and especially with the technology, Daniel, that you were talking about, I mean, it almost doesn't, you could almost anything you can point your phone at, you could have it read to you now, right? Micah, we can talk to all of you, and because, most of the family is here with us, and how is getting your dyslexia kind of under control? It's not like it's gone, but you've adapted your life to get around it. How has it helped you with not just school, but other aspects of your life? And Mom and Dad, if you think about something that you've noticed, maybe he hadn't thought about.
I have found it easier to reading books is probably the obvious one. And
but how about your stress level in school?
in fourth grade it was kind of high, mainly in reading. Math and science and history, that stuff was easy for me because most of them, they already read it, the stuff to you.
Right, and there's a good story to it, so you can remember things, right?
But in reading, it always stressed me out because I needed help, and it's kind of hard to read just that long sentence about this story about this dog, somebody's dog or something like that.
Right, you can't necessarily tell where the story's going.
Yeah.
That's true for a lot of the reading materials and reading testing materials, especially. Here, read this paragraph and tell us, answer these questions about it, right? That's hard to do. How about for you guys? Have you noticed any differences in Micah since all this happened?
I think his confidence has gone up drastically. He is much more confident. He believes that he is able to do things. He doesn't see a disability as a wall, but more as like a door or window that he can be able to. He may need a different key to unlock it, but he can still get through that.
I liken it to I'm a bicycle mechanic, and I think about some of the tools are really made for right-handed people, and if you're left-handed, it's really hard to do it. So you can, it would be nice to have that. And I'm not left-handed, but I worked with a left-handed bike mechanic, and there were just things he couldn't do, and then we would get tools that work both ways. And he's like, oh, well, that's a lot easier. That's maybe a strange analogy. How about you, Katie? What have you noticed?
I've seen his confidence definitely pick up. If he comes to something he's struggling with doing, he might want to text his friend, but it's frustrating for him to type all that into the phone. So he'll voice
to text.
So he finds a way around. And he has more confidence to do that now than he did before. Well,
it strikes me that you fooled a lot of people before you realized what was going on, and so it's in some ways the fact that you were so good at hiding it. You already did learn a lot of adapting strategies, didn't you? Yeah. There are a couple misconceptions about dyslexia. One that I want to address is for years, and even some people still think it's kind of a vision problem. It's you're not seeing right, but it's not really that you don't see it, right? What happens to words on the page for you when you look at them, especially as you were really struggling?
For me, it's not really the words not there. It's more of I'm reading a sentence and then the word. I end up zoning out or something like that, and I find the words in a different thing, and then so I read it end up reading the same sentence about 5 times. And then I realized, wait a minute, I just read that sentence.
Right. And so it's hard to track.
Yeah.
This reading is linear, right? You start at the beginning and you go to the end. Yeah. Okay. I'm really, I want a dyslexia simulator, a pair of glasses I could put on that would make it look to me like it looks to you. I think that would really help us all.
I just think it's wild to see. It was wild to see it in person, to learn about it and to have examples in my textbooks and to hear examples from other people, but is one thing. But to sit next to someone who's kind of discovering that about themselves.
Well, and also somebody who you love as much as, there's 4 people, you all can't see the sister who's sitting over in the chair behind us. But when you see somebody you really love who's
struggles.
And you got a picture of what was going on in his brain, didn't you?
Yeah. It's just, it was the same, but it was different than what I had learned in the textbooks.
Okay. So now we're getting closer to the end of the program. I just want to ask you, what advice, Katie, let's start with you. Like, what advice would you have for somebody in your situation who has been struggling with this as a mom or a reading specialist? What are some of the first steps folks should take to see if this might help them?
Trust your gut. If your gut tells you something is not quite right, you're probably on the right track. You want the best for your child or your student, and everything that you do for them needs to be done in love, and that's all we can ask for our kids. To take care of them in the best way that we can.
And Daniel, for you, we do have a fair number of ITRTs and also administrators who listen to this podcast, I hope. What would you say to folks who want to make life as pleasant as possible for kids with dyslexia and for the teachers who have to instruct them? What are any thoughts of like what folks can do on the ground to make sure that all the tools are available to these students?
I think we have to dismiss the stigma that's surrounding a lot of those, the stigma of using an assistive technology, allowing those students to use those things in the classroom and out of the classroom, because we get them for 12, 13 years. After that, we send them out into the world, and they have to self-accommodate from that moment on. They have to learn to be their own advocates, and that's what we're trying to teach them, is to be their own advocates. So really encouraging them to find those technologies, find those different strategies. Sometimes it is a full-blown electronic technology. Sometimes it's just a strategy that they can use to keep themselves focused in on that reading passage or whatever it is that they need, but encouraging them to do that, to really get beyond the idea of, I need help. We all need help. Every one of us needs help in some way.
Well, and that's the thing we haven't talked about, is that these strategies actually, they're not just for the 1 in 5 kids who has dyslexia. Every kid, an emerging reader, could benefit from this, right?
Every person strategizes their learning in a certain way. We all accommodate. I mean, if you make a checklist, I need to go home and clean my house, and so I'm going to make a checklist, and you cross those off. Boy, does that feel good. But you just accommodated. Right. Cleaning your house, whatever it is, we all do it.
Turning the captions on your TV.
No, which I have to do with anytime anybody has a British accent. I have to turn the caption. We went to the movies to see Hamnet the other day, and lovely movie, but a lot of it was really quiet and British, and I wanted to hit the clicker on the movie screen because we were in a theater, so I could see it. Micah, anything you would say to kids or adults who are struggling with reading because they have what you have, like 20% of us do? What would you say to them, folks who've been struggling?
Dyslexia is not a impossible task to overcome. It is possible to self-accommodate and help yourself with that, and help yourself read better.
And no shame in it, right?
Yeah. It's not, just because it's harder doesn't mean it's impossible.
Well, that is a great place to end on. I just want to thank the Vanover family for making the drive here to Roanoke to record this podcast, and I wish you nothing but the best, and I look forward to hearing what you're reading after you finish Lord of the Rings. So, for ActiVATED Learning, I'm Tom Landon.
ActiVATED Learning is produced by Blue Ridge PBS in partnership with the Virginia Department of Education
and in collaboration with VISTE, the Virginia Society for Technology and Education.
This podcast is hosted and produced by Tom Landon, Director of Educational Innovation, with lots of help from graphic and audio designer Jay Prater.
Additional support provided by Andy Depew in our podcast studio.
Our Vice President of Education is Dr. Rose Martin.
Special thanks to Calypso Gilstrap
at the Virginia Department of Education.
Our credits are read by students at Westside and Highland Park Elementary Schools in Roanoke, Virginia.
If you like what you hear, subscribe to ActiVATED Learning wherever you get your podcasts, or watch the Echo channel at blueridgepbs.org.